load up on both sides of the streets, put out
Did
the
you know the
wounded.
pilots?
Know them? No.
Okay.
I know who they were, yeah. And their names a little bit, yeah. But no, I wouldn't say I knew them.
Okay.
I used to say I knew everybody. I'm friends with everybody. Now I've learned that you're an acquaintance. We're friends if you know my kids' middle names or something. And then we're close. Back then, well, we're all one. But I couldn't say that I knew them. And I remember lining up on both sides of the streets and heading that way. And just moving in a column both sides of the streets, cross-covering for each other. And every intersection we crossed on our way was just a hail of gunfire. I remember
Every
looking
single one, huh?
Yeah, every single one. And they were paralleling us, trying to beat us to the crash site. And so we knew we had to speed up, so we gave up security by using speed. And every intersection, just a hail of bullets. You had to just kind of wait and then go. And I remember going past one, there weren't people at it, and I was kind of watching around the corner, waiting for other people to cross, and then this donkey comes walking across the street, just standing there like he's just chilling. And then we start taking fire, and I realized they're shooting from behind the donkey. You start seeing feet behind the donkey. I'm like, all right, you got to drop the donkey to drop the dudes. I remember shooting the donkey, and it took off, and then those dudes are standing there with their, guns in their hands, like, uh-oh, donkey's gone. I'm like, man, they'll do anything to get at us, And I remember calling my team, or one of my friends over. Look at this thing, man. What's this donkey doing? Just standing there. He goes, I don't know. It's crazy. And then, we get, taking fire, so we realized what was happening. Kept moving down the street and finally turned to head north. And we had a couple blocks to go, a couple Somalian blocks to go, which is just, not that far, probably 50 yards, maybe 100 yards at the most. And I remember turning the corner. The other team took the other couple teams took the far side of the street, and they were in the lit side. I think the sun was setting, on this side now, and it's lighting up the east side of the street, so we weren't in as much. And they were taking more fire, and from up near the crash site. I remember my 2IC jumping out in the middle of the street, and I jumped out with him with my M4, and he shot the 203 down and literally hit this building, this little shack, just past the crash site where one dude was in. And he just jumped out and boom. It was a lucky shot, and he knows it too. And it was one of those that hit it, and I was like, holy shit. And then one guy came running out, and we're sitting there engaging. But before I had walked out in the middle of the street with him, I remember looking over, and I saw Earl and his team shooting up the street. And when I looked back, there were two people dragging Earl into their building. And I didn't see him get shot or anything. I just thought, what happened to Earl? Did he fall down? Earl got killed instantly. Shot right through our plastic Protect helmets, so we could be faster, right? Lightweight Protect skateboard helmets. We ended up pushing further down the street, worked our way down, and I remember Paul Howe was a team leader. He was angry. I remember his anger. And he had ended up on our side of the street somehow, and his team was on the other side. And we got down to the crash site, and our team ended up being the furthest north and the furthest west of all the fighting. We were that corner, with the crash site being here, and everyone else being this way down the street, injured and wounded, and the Rangers and whatnot. I remember Paul coming over just pissed off and screaming, and it's just all screwed up and blah, blah, blah. We got to take this house. I'm like, all right, Paul, but chill, bro, chill. This is, you gotta be under. And he kicks the door, and we go in, it's full of women and one guy again. We end up corralling them all into the living room, the kids in the living room, and then this one guy handcuffed in the living room. We end up dominating that house, and that's where we stayed the rest of the night. Had a carport with a little metal roof covered, sliding into the carport. For some reason, it seemed backwards to me, with an entrance, the kitchen off to the right, the living room off to the left, a little bathroom just off the kitchen, and then 3 bedrooms. Tiny, tiny little home. But it was right on the corner of the crash site, so we just occupied every room, pulling guard out every window. I didn't know anybody was killed or wounded yet. By then, before we even made it to that crash site, the rescue bird had come in. And they had fast rope. They took an RPG right to the rotor blades as they were fast roping into the crash site. And so they ended up, pilot held that beautifully. They ended up fast roping all in and then trying to secure the crash site before we even got there. And before we even got there, the Somalians had gotten there, and they were overwhelming the helicopter. So Dan Bush had jumped out and ran out of cover range and ran around the corner with a saw to dispatch as many Somalis as he could to defend the crash site. But he intern got killed doing that as well. Got shot doing that. So another guy runs out and grabs him. Another sniper ran out and grabbed him. And as he was dragging him out of the way, a little bird came and landed in the intersection with the pilot shooting MP5s out the window to help them. He got shot through the neck, pulling Dan to the helo to put him in, and he tried to get back in the fight. And they wouldn't let him. They made him get on the bird as well, and they exfilled both of them, and Dan ended up dying of his wounds. And I didn't know any of that till the end.
These are all your guys?
Yeah.